welcome to Procurement Pivots, the podcast for procurement professionals wanting to navigate change successfully and create career success on your own terms. I'm Donna Bowden, procurement career coach and founder of Narrate Your Career.
And I'm Laura Sellers, executive coach for procurement and founder of Coaching for Procurement. And between us, we bring almost 25 years of supporting and working with procurement professionals. And it's fair to say we've navigated many of our own career pivots along the way. And now we're here to help you do the same.
Each episode will share practical strategies, honest conversations, and expert insights to help you confidently tackle the changes and challenges in your procurement career.
Let's get started.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Procurement Pivots podcast. And we are following what we did last week, actually. So for anyone that tuned in last time, you will have seen that we had a slightly different theme for the episode. And so today we are going to be using this episode to really share kind of with all of you a bit more about what Laura does in her own business, because actually we've had quite a few people kind of try to understand, on these podcasts, who does what. And so we just thought it would be really good to be able to kind of share a little bit more with you about kind of the work, the great work that Laura does with her one-to-one and her corporate clients. So how are you feeling about this episode, Laura? I know I was a bit nervous last time.
Yes, nervous. Yes, definitely. But I'm hoping that you will be kind. I'm sure you will.
Absolutely. Well, I say absolutely. Let's see. Time will tell. No, I will. So why don't you kick us off, Laura, and just tell anyone that's listening that doesn't know you, like, who are you? Could you share a little bit of information about yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Laura Sellers. I am an executive and leadership coach, and I focus specifically on working with procurement professionals. I think you might have mentioned in your previous one, I do have clients that sit alongside procurement sometimes. I have clients, particularly in the last year, who've come to me from outside of procurement because they know me in my work here. But my specialism is focusing on supporting procurement, and that's because I've worked in that environment for quite a long time myself. So I first joined, I was doing a lot of that sort of activity in a recruitment business, actually. So, which is another thing we have in common, which I absolutely loved. And then I moved to a procurement organisation. I spent about 9 years there, so in several roles. So that's what I do. I'm also outside of work. I'm married with two girls, and so I have a busy home life outside of the business as well, which is great. And yeah, I'm on that journey of building my business. I'm almost 4 years in now. So yeah, it's been an exciting and fast-paced 4 years, I would say.
Yes, absolutely. So do you want to share the company name? Because some people won't even know the company name, and tell us a little bit more about your business then.
Sure. Well, I've got a real does what it says on the tin name for my company, but there's a reason for that because it didn't start out that way. So I actually, when I first started out, my business was actually called Olive Executive and Leadership Development, which is quite a mouthful. But also I just wanted, I mean, there were reasons for why I chose that name, but basically after about a year or so, I decided to give it a more procurement focused name. And I was discussing with another coach actually, and I came up with the very original name of Coaching for Procurement, which is great for SEO.
It's
But
amazing. It's amazing. You always come off at the top. It's really, yeah, it might not have been intentional, but it
no, it
works.
wasn't. But as doing what it says on the tin, as it sounds, it's actually for me coaching as a skill set and as an intervention to support procurement professionals for me is a really important thing. So I do my business primarily focused in the beginning on just one-to-one coaching, coaching like yourself, senior procurement leaders from CPO level to director, head of. And but then also over time, it's also grown to encompass a lot of team coaching and workshop facilitation. There's differences between the way that I do things depending on the needs of the business and the size of the team. And also, I provide coaching qualifications as well that are for procurement professionals. So that's something else I have within my business, and I do some of that in my corporate work. But I I think that coaching is necessary as a support mechanism for procurement professionals, and I think the name
Mm.
of the business absolutely reflects that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
interesting. And so, you said that you also started initially doing the one-to-one and then expanding into
Mm.
the team coaching and the coaching qualifications, actually, for those people that want to develop their skills. What was it that kind of what was it that led to you kind of, moving away from just doing that one-to-one coaching?
Well, I love one-to-one conversation. I love deep conversation. If you've been following me a while, I'm not afraid to go deep on my content in LinkedIn. I'm not afraid to have those deep conversations because I think a lot of transformation can happen at that level. And the reason why so I do love, but then I've worked with maybe a CPO or a director, and then they've said, actually, I'd really like if you did some of this work with my team,
Mm,
where we focus on what's going on in the team, how do we get to a higher level of performance if it's a team coaching element. I am a certified team coach as well. And then also, I guess for me, when I first left corporate life, let's say, I didn't want to escape corporate life. I still very much wanted to support leaders in the business. So it's just naturally evolved. And that's where I find this is what I really love about business. Like I am goal driven, but I love to look on how far I've come, how far my clients have come, how far the team
mm,
has come. And so I've really enjoyed the natural progression. And then with the coaching qualifications, as I said earlier, I believe that coaching as a skill set is incredibly valuable for any leader, but
mm,
also for procurement who are in this business partnership role, because a lot of the time you're needing to understand the needs of your stakeholders and to also sometimes sort of read between the lines and understand what else is going on in the room to be able to facilitate, orchestrate, do all of these activities that procurement are becoming responsible for. So for me, a coaching skill set is incredibly important to be able to do that. A lot of people then move into consultancy. Again, a coaching skill set for consultants, I think, is
mm,
incredibly vital. So
mm,
that's why, and I was getting asked for it as well. I go on what my potential clients and clients ask for. So that's why it's evolved. There's been a real explosion in teamwork. For me over the last year or
mm.
so. But every team is different, which I love. I love the variety. So yeah, that's sort of the way the business has evolved over those 4 years.
Amazing, amazing. And looking at your own story then, so you were in corporate and you were working in a procurement environment, in a procurement organization. What was it that led to you then starting to coach? How did that come about?
I mean, I'd always had a dream of running my own business.
Yeah.
To be honest, for years from my 20s, really, just didn't quite know what that might have looked like. But when it came to actual coaching, when I was working as a head of support to a large procurement team or a large set of categories, I was the leadership sponsor for employee engagement, which I did for about 3 or 4 years. And it got to the point during COVID when the team were supplying equipment to hospitals, and um, I was sat there going, my goodness, everybody needs support that looks different. So
Mm,
we were coming up with the employee engagement team that I was working with. We were trying to come up with different ways to support the team. There were people who were working parents at home with kids while they were trying to desperately get this equipment into
mm,
hospitals. And then there was others who were sat at home on their own. So I was starting to really realize like, gosh, this support looks different for everybody, and this isn't going to touch the sides for a lot of people. What
mm,
does that mean? What does that look like? And also, we'd done an exercise before COVID, where been through the insights discovery training. I'd always loved the personal development side of leadership. And so when it came to understanding what our colours were, if you're familiar with insights, anyone listening who is, I was just fascinated by how those colours clashed or how they
mm,
worked well together. So I was really starting to sort of put these pieces together. I'd been on a really good leadership development team course, but I'd never been coached myself. I was
mm,
doing some informal coaching. So I just started to to think about, what does this mean? What does this look like? What's that next step for me in my career? I really want to be able to help people where they are, because it was so different if you were a working parent, and like I say, no better or worse, just different. Everybody's got their own challenges going on outside of work, and also everybody has their own leadership style. So that's what led me to exploring, what does that mean? What does it look like? Oh, what's this? This is leadership coaching. This really does seem like the direction that I want to go in. So I trained, and that took me a while, before I then became qualified. And yeah, it just sort of, coupled with the dream of wanting to run my own business.
Mm.
I've shared it a couple of times, but my husband works away, so I'm actually, I'm solo parenting a lot of the time. So there was also that element that was taken into consideration, and that's what led me to here.
Great, thank you for sharing that. So, and I know you mentioned earlier, so initially the business was born with a different name and a
Mm.
slightly different focus, actually. So, am I right in thinking that so initially it wasn't a procurement focused coaching practice that you developed, was it?
No, it wasn't. I mean, I'd come from a procurement background, but
Yeah,
I guess I hadn't really done my research, being totally honest, on whether it needed to be a procurement focused business, because I was learning about leadership coaching,
yeah,
so there wasn't a focus on leadership coaching within a procurement atmosphere. But my first clients came from procurement,
right, yeah,
so some ex-colleagues, some coincidentally, and I was trying to figure out what that meant as well, about who I like to help, because I think for me as well, there was something around, like, my role in the business was around supporting others in the and supporting the activities of the business and being that business partner. And so yeah, I think it's just coupling it all together. And this is why, and I like to tell this story because for a lot of people, like you say, people don't have a clear vision about what they actually want. They think about what they should. So I'm a person who loves to connect dots, and I always say to my clients, it's like throwing all the jigsaw pieces out onto the floor and then putting them back together. And so that's how I feel my own journey has been. Like, I've gone based on, I've sort of followed the journey. I've had the confidence to and the courage to put myself out there, to know that I really want to focus on coaching and supporting leadership development. And then I really enjoyed still sitting in that procurement world. So
yeah,
yeah, it's just evolved over time. And now and I also understand how procurement feel. I
mm,
understand their world. I understand the challenges that they're doing. And while a good coach actually is able to provide a different lens to, so it's not about actually, have you tried this, have you tried that? That's not what my coaching does. It's still around stepping out. It's taking them out of the weeds of procurement and then helping them to step back in with a different perspective.
mm.
That I just really enjoy that aspect of what I do.
Yeah, brilliant. So, in terms of, you touched on challenges there. So, and clearly, you've got these different facets to your business. You've got the one-to-one, you've got the team coaching, you've got the coaching qualifications. But what are you seeing as the kind of, I suppose, more common themes around the challenges that people are experiencing when they come to you?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, every person's different, every story is unique. But what I would say is that the challenge is that they're trying to take their procurement function to a place it hasn't yet been, or they're trying to recover the function from a big
Mm,
setback. So it might be that there's been some big restructures, it might be that there's been some really challenging times, and that's a lot to carry on a CPO's shoulders, on a director's shoulders, because they've got to where they've got to because they're very good at what they do. They have really
mm,
specialist knowledge. But for me, it's around helping them to expand their toolkit when it comes to influencing others, to leading their team in a way that suits their own leadership style, in a way that suits the needs of the team. So yeah, it's they're coming to me because they want to push themselves to a further level
mm,
before, in line with where they want to take their function. They often have a vision of where they want to take the business. They may have been there before, but they also, I think, what's really powerful for somebody at a CPO, director, VP, head of level is that they have that external sounding board.
mm,
Because it can be, the higher you climb in an organization, the lonelier it can feel.
mm,
And the stakes can feel higher because you finally made it to that infamous seat at the table that often gets talked about in procurement. And then you're thinking, well, what if they think that I'm not up to it? Or what if they find out? And that's where the imposter syndrome comes in. Or, so that external sounding board is really powerful because, again, I'm not here to tell them to do anything. I'm here to help them think things through. I'm a thinking partner.
Yeah.
And they find, and it might be that I then bring an insight to them that they might not see because they're too busy stuck in their own lens and perspective, which is what we all do, right?
Mm.
So I think we talked about this in a previous episode, but I heard it recently again about how you can't see the label from inside the bottle. So it's just around having that external sounding board is so incredibly important to someone who works at that level because
Mm.
they don't want to show their team that they might feel uncertain with certain things, but they also don't want to share it at an executive level where they're still trying to figure out the boardroom politics.
Mm.
So there's always a lot going on underneath the surface,
Mm.
and so that's the challenge. They might also be new to role, so they want to be able to, put their best foot forward and have that 90-day, 180-day plan that they want to take action on. But yeah, I would definitely say in terms of challenges, there's a lot of that, recovering from restructures can actually take a lot out of the team and out of the leader. So I help them with that. And
Yeah.
sorry, one other thing I would also say is that often by the time they've got to that level, there's stuff that's happened in their career that they might be not struggling to move on from, but that might have dented their confidence.
Mm.
So my job is also to help them rebuild that confidence again. It's not the same for everybody, but that can
Yeah.
often happen.
Yeah. And with the team coaching, so are you typically finding that, the procurement leader is coming to you having already gained, business approval to kind of put this training in place, or are you helping them to shape that kind of business case, in order to, I suppose, get sign off financially, etc.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a bit of both, really. I mean, it really just depends on the organizational context, how big they are, if there is already investment there. I mean, as a piece of advice, I would definitely say ask for the investment because so many people think that the business won't invest in them,
Yeah.
even those at the top levels, which could not be further from the truth in my experience, because the payoff, the ROI for investing in your team
Mm.
and in your it could massively impact retention rates and turnover. So yeah, it's but I would definitely say sometimes they come to me and they say, I want you to help me and my team, but I don't quite know what with. So we look at what's going on for the team. Where's the better value going to be added? Very rarely do I come along and say, oh, I've got this workshop that's around influencing or this workshop that's around conflict management. Do you want it?
Yeah.
That's not the way that I work. It's around understanding what's really going on in the team because also you can put your team through some training and they'll go, oh yeah, that's nice. Then it's back to the day job because the spinning plates of procurement don't stop, do they? People are thinking,
Yeah.
oh my God, I've had 100 emails come in since I've been on this
Yeah.
workshop today. So the whole point of a team coach, and I'm not dissing, by the way, workshop facilitation, I do that as well. But when it comes to team coaching, it's around working with what's going on in the room. It's my job to point out the dynamics and to
Yeah.
actually ask some tough questions and actually say, right, I'm here, I'm feeling some tension here. It might just be me. What's going on? Because this is stopping you from moving forward.
Yeah.
And the job of a team coach is to create that psychological safety for the team to
Yeah.
be able to do that as well.
And obviously you can't give confidential, that's a mouthful, specifics, but what have been some of the sort of the outcomes from, those procurement teams that have been able to invest in that degree of help and support? Like, how has that kind of helped them, would you say?
I think if I start with a team coaching point of view, when it's normally with smaller teams and they're usually like the leadership team of a procurement team. So you've got
Yeah.
either your CPO, you've got your head of the team, whatever their
Yeah.
title is, and their leadership team. It might be that there's a lack of alignment between the categories. Category silos is not a new thing to talk about.
Hmm.
I often talk about it and point to it because it creates more barriers than what you might think. And also, team conflict is an interesting one. It exists in every team, but it holds you back so much more than what you think.
Mm.
And it might just be around a strategy session where they just want to, leadership teams don't have the time to or the space to talk about this stuff, to talk about
Yeah.
where they think they're all heading together. They might have an assumption that we're all heading in the same direction, but then we realize in the session that that alignment's not there. When it comes to the wider team, when I do sessions like that, that could be a confidence building exercise when it comes to influence, where they think they're not capable of influencing. There's a lot more internal barriers to that than there are external a lot of the time. So again, I take a very personalized view of
Mm.
I'll always interview the team before we head in the room. So if it's a
Yeah.
smaller team, we'll have conversations so they know me before we get in there. And I also work in a very fluid way. I work with what comes up in the session. So I have an agenda. I have a learning outcome that the team want to get to. But if I keep hearing the same things, I will call it out because that's what's really going on sometimes, not the thing that they
Mm.
think they're working towards.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So, what advice would you give procurement professionals that are listening to the podcast? What advice would you give for this year, would you say?
Well, I mentioned it earlier, but ask for investment. I know it's a tough climate, but there are people who think the business won't invest. And I would always say it's worth having the conversation. They want to know that you're serious about your leadership development. They want to know that you want to solve these problems, that you want to be a strategic team. And you might already be that, but you'd be surprised uh, at how there might be more budget there when it's targeted support, not just,
Yeah.
oh, we've got a training budget, go ask your team what they want and then put them on it. If that's, I've seen that happen before. When it's a more targeted form of support, you'll be surprised at how there's investment there because you're solving a specific problem.
Brilliant. And do you want to share, so, for this year, what are the kind of key focuses for you in your business this year, would you say?
Sure, yeah, I've got a really exciting year ahead actually. So I'm delivering a 6 month leadership development program for a procurement organization, which I'm really excited about. And for me, the fact that these teams are getting investment is a huge positive sign, particularly in today's climate. I'm doing some speaking opportunities again, which is great. So I'll be sharing more about that later in the year. I've got some. I've got some one-to-one coaching clients that we're working on developing their leadership presence and impact. And then some team coaching opportunities where we're working on strategy, that perfection, moving away from perfection and more into excellence, which is a really poignant topic for procurement. And I also need to fit in some coaching qualification training somewhere. So I will be doing that at some point and releasing some dates for that. But it is definitely shaping up to be a very busy and exciting year with lots of variety. And again, like as I said earlier, my role is to respond to what the needs are of the
Yeah.
people who are coming to me. So what I would say, just to go back to your question about advice, is that don't think that in your context there isn't room for this sort of support because I've worked across lots of different industries now, different sizes of organizations, from very small ones to really fast-paced ones to public procurement, public sector procurement. So there is scope and coaching as a skill set and as an intervention can work across all of those.
Brilliant. Well, massive
Yeah.
congratulations for everything you've achieved in,
Yeah,
still
thank
quite a short space of time, like 4 years. Like, look at where you are. Like, I know last year was a massive growth year for you. And yeah, as you say, like this year is already shaping up to be such an exciting year again of growth. So, really, really well done. And echoing what you said kind of on the last episode, it's been amazing to be able to come together in the way that we have. And,
you.
we have this shared passion for wanting to help procurement, help the profession, help key individuals within the profession, and to be able to come together like this and work together and, as you say, kind of build a friendship, but really be able to help people in this way has just been an absolute joy.
Mm.
Really have enjoyed it and learned a lot. So thank you. And thank you for all of your support in my first 18
Mhm.
months in the business as
Yeah.
well. It's been invaluable, to be honest.
Oh, well, the support's mutual, isn't it? So, yeah, looking forward to seeing how we continue to build procurement pivots together as well. So, yeah, thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
There you go. Hopefully that wasn't too difficult. You can breathe.
I can breathe now. We can both breathe.
I feel like we were
Oh,
both a
thanks so
lot
much.
kinder actually with our questions
Yeah,
in these episodes than maybe in some of the individual episodes we've done. But no, thank you
yeah.
for sharing that. I'm sure that's going to be incredibly helpful for a lot of people listening in that are kind of thinking about either their own journey or the journey of their team for this year. So thank you, and thank you everyone for listening and joining us. And we're really pleased that all of you are kind of here for the journey. So we will see you next time.
Right, take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Procurement Pivots. We hope today's episode gave you actionable tips to help you to continue to move forward in your procurement career.
If you enjoyed the conversation, follow our episodes, share them with others, and please support us on our social media channels for others that might be interested to tune in.